I don't need it right now. I'm just asking right now. Oh, what are you doing?
Well, look at that.
You don't like to say
Oh wait, you guys can't put your head in the way?
No, or we can't talk.
what happened?
Everything we say will be censored.
What happened?
Yeah,
Why?
They picked the best seats.
Wait, everything we said? Said it to who? For what?
This is being live streamed throughout the city.
It's great.
wait, do you think we can see like this?
Wait, is it recording right now?
He said that she's down there.
I know, I saw it.
Let's go.
I thought it would be good.
I don't listen all the time. I thought it was like small.
Yo, Pedro, we should have to be sitting right behind you.
Bro, that's recording. Everything you say, it's like.
For real? Live stream.
The what?
The live streaming to the Board of Education.
Don't get in the way of the camera. Whatever they say, it's passive. How do you know?
I'm not seeing I'm playing. I'm gonna get sick.
I'm gonna give me some food after.
Josh! Is your girlfriend?
Who? Right there? Oh yeah, I told him about how.
Josh! $10, I'll split.
I do. But you're not getting shit.
Bro, you have to pay it back.
Yo, watch your language.
Did I borrow money?
Yo, watch your language.
I'm sorry. Kyle. Straight here. With the gray and black. The third one. Third one. No. Wait. She's coming back around. The second one. She's standing up. She just sat down.
I'll go get her number.
Just sat down. Huh? I would.
Go get her right now.
I would. Hey, what's up? I love you too.
How are you gonna get her number?
Listen, I got my ways. Yo, like, this is my Apple Watch.
Read it. Is he already live streaming?
With the entire school? Like, in the other classrooms?
Wait, they're watching it?
Right now. So the videos right now? When does the guy get on?
He's already here. Other schools on. I know. My head's not even in the way.
Just be quiet there. Is that on yet? You guys saw the sign.
Luiz. Não fala isso não.
Vai tomar no cu.
to hold the mic. Speak normally. The mic will project your voice, okay? You have your questions, you know what you're doing, so just come here. It's all organized. I'll call you, no big, okay? Thank you very much.
Good morning, 8th graders from Somerville. Your social studies teachers and I are thrilled to be able to join you as you meet Dr. Roberts. Before we turn to that, we would like to thank Ms. Sadler and Facing History for organizing this morning for us, so thank you very much. And before I introduce your special guest speaker, I just want to remind you about our expectations for you. It is such a privilege for us to all be here, and we want to make sure you give your full and undivided attention, which means no cell phones. If you wanted to take a picture, that's at the end, but for now, your full attention will be up on the front stage. At the age of 15, Terrence Roberts, along with 8 other black teenagers, faced daily harassment to integrate Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957. These courageous students became known to the nation as the Little Rock Nine. A graduate of California State University at Los Angeles and UCLA, Dr. Roberts obtained his PhD in psychology from the Southern Illinois University. Dr. Roberts has held positions at universities and has maintained a practice in clinical psychology. He has been director of a hospital-based acute care mental health unit and the CEO of a management consulting firm. Since 1998, he has been the official desegregation consultant for the Little Rock, Arkansas School District and provides similar services to school districts around the nation. Now living in Pasadena, California, Dr. Roberts is a proud husband, father, and grandfather, and remains an active board member and volunteer. Please welcome Dr. Roberts.
I've always wanted to make one of those grand appearances from behind the curtain, but I've never had it until today. That was fun. Standing back there, and there's even a chair up here for me in case I want to sit down. Wow, you guys are really neat. All the comforts of home. We have something else? Oh, okay. Different presentation. Oh, okay, that's a presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll read it later, but it looks like it's fabulous. Anyway, I am indeed Terry Roberts. People were not lying to you. I was indeed in Little Rock. In fact, I was born there. Like you, I spent the first 9 months of my existence tucked away in the womb, just sort of swimming around in the amniotic bubble, splashing. It was cool, you know, I didn't have to worry about lunch or anything because I had this umbilical cord hooked up to me, so I got food on demand. Yeah. But no more, no more. The cord was cut when I was kicked out of the womb. You get kicked out, see, about 9 months later. It's time limited. So I got kicked out, they snipped off my lunch cord. Now I was in big trouble because I was hungry. I needed to find food. So I snuck around and found some food. But, you know, fortunately I was in the company of people who truly loved me. I was a wanted child. You know how it is when you're not wanted, you get kicked around, sit outside in the cold and all that stuff. But I was okay. Problem was, outside that very small circle, people hated me on sight. Why? Because I was a black kid, having been born in Little Rock in 1941. The law of the time suggested, well, more than suggested, the law stated very clearly, Terry Roberts, you don't count for much. Your life does not matter. We will take you out. There were certain places where I could go, but many more places where I could not go, all by law. You know, that was very surprising to me because what I had heard, you know, I listened in from the womb. You put your ear next to the membrane, you could hear a lot of stuff. So I heard people talking, and they were saying, these black people, man, they're a problem. We got to do something about them. We won't let them in our schools, most certainly. So I had this inkling when I was running around as a young kid. Well, I crawled first. You don't just start walking. You know that. You crawl. So I crawled around. But from that perspective, you get a lot of information. People don't even know you're listening. You can just crawl right up and sit there and take notes. Well, I did. And that was scary because I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know if I could cope with this. But then, after a time, I grew, I became older. I was, say, 6 years old. Now, I'm really coming into my own. I've already had the power of speech. I've had the power of speech for a long time. But now people tell me that there's another step. They say, you have to go to school. Really? School? You're going to break up my routine? Right now, I just get up when I want to. If it's warm outside, I'll just take a look out and call my buddies. We get to the corner. You know, we have Oreos and milk. We go to the park. We talk. But now they say, you got to go to school. I'm thinking, what is this school business? And then there are other people in my neighborhood. Ooh, this thing moves. So, whoa, it's hazardous up here. Well, people were telling me things like, boy, get your education. Different voices. Boy, get your education. Boy, get your education. Well, everybody was saying the same thing. So I thought they must be in collusion. They must know something. They're older, so they must know something. So I said, okay. I developed an interest in getting my education. Well, what was my education? I had no idea. But then I went to school, first grade. It was really cool. You know what was really cool about first grade? All of these girls. Oh, man. Oh. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. I got in trouble on day one. We had this thing called recess. I'd never heard of it. But I loved it. You don't have to sit in these hard chairs anymore. You get out and run around, you know. So I said to these girls, about 3 or 4 of them, I said, hey, maybe we don't have to go back. So we hung out until they caught us. Didn't take them long either, because they had folk running around. They had a clipboard with names on it. If you were missing from your desk, they knew about it right away. Missing, you know, all points bulletin, find those kids. So we had to scramble back. But then the teacher sat us down and she said something that was really important. Roberts, pay attention, okay? So she said, you kids, all of you kids, you have to become executives in charge of your own learning. You've got to be the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of your own independent learning enterprise. Wow, I sat up straight because now I'm hearing stuff that's really beginning to make sense. You mean I can be the executive in charge of learning? I can decide to learn or not to learn? And if I decide to learn, I can learn all there is to be known? I'm down. Oh yeah, count me in. So right there in 1947, September, I established the Terry Roberts Learning Academy. And that academy has been operational since. No breaks in service, dues paid on time, no late fees. You know what? I would say the same thing to you. Take on executive responsibility and watch the way the world shifts. You become the executive in charge of learning. You know why that's so important? It's so important because when you are kicked out of the womb, you come here with no knowledge whatsoever. You know nothing. I call it a storehouse of ignorance. But that is not a permanent condition. You know why? Because once you learn, that storehouse begins to diminish in size. Day by day. Actually, right now, you have to really work hard because knowledge has increased so fast and it's increasing faster than we can keep up with it. You have to work hard to keep that storehouse diminishing rather than increasing. And so it is. I suggest to you today, think seriously about becoming the executives in charge. It really helped me out because as things played out, I'll tell you why in a minute, how that all happened. But the school I went to had only black people in it because that's what the law said. You see, in the year 1896, and these kids on the front row, they're all A students, I can tell. Oh yeah, they've got that look, that A student look. In 1896, see, they already know this. I'm just talking to the rest of you. In 1896, the Supreme Court of the U.S. ruled in a case called, you got it, Plessy v. Ferguson. The Brown case comes later. That's 1954. Okay, but we're talking 1896. Plessy v. Ferguson. Why was that such an important case? Because the Supreme Court of these United States decided that keeping people apart from each other based on racial group membership was important. So they said, let's build a wall. Well, I didn't really say that. I can't make it. But they said, we will declare that people will live lives separate and apart from each other. They established a doctrine called separate but equal. You know, I put that funny emphasis on but equal because that really didn't mean much. What they really meant was separate, period. But equal was just thrown in there for decoration. That suggested very strongly that we as people had to divide ourselves up. We could not have anything to do with other people who were from, quote, different racial groups by law, by custom. And by the way, what they said in 1896 was not new. That was not the first time. This was simply the codification. I paused there before I used that word because I know all of you in this room don't know that word, but it occurred to me to say it anyway because you have dictionaries. Okay, that's cool. So this was a codification of all the stuff that had been going on before. How long? Since 1619. Why 1619? Well, that was the date that the very first shipload of people from Africa were brought to these shores to begin a process of free labor. Free labor. That means you work for no pay. You ever had a job where up front they told you there's no pay involved, but you got to work forever? I know parents are like that. Actually, I'm one of them. I'm one of them. That's what I told my kids too. If you stay at home during the summer, you will have to work for no pay. As a consequence, my girls always had jobs outside the home every summer. It's much better to work for pay, much better. But at any rate, so in 1619, these Africans show up, and they are shocked. But it wasn't until a few years later that the institution of slavery was introduced, and then things really got hairy. That situation, starting in 1619, moved along unimpeded until 1954. The 1896 thing just happened because I think, this is my speculation, I have no proof for it whatsoever, but I think what happened in 1896 was the court became so distressed because people in groups here and there were beginning to raise their hand and say, what's this stuff all about? Why can't we change this stuff? And the court decided, okay, Americans, get it through your thick skulls. We are now going to give you the truth of the matter. There will be racial discrimination. Well, it had been going on all along anyway. It was nothing new, but they wanted to put it in writing, and so they did. And so it remained in writing until 1954. That was the Brown decision. Now, in 1954, this same court, by the way, that had acted in 1896, the court said it is no longer constitutional to discriminate. Those are interesting words. No longer constitutional. Now, we've been told in so many words by so many people these days that the Constitution never changes. What it says is what it says. Not true, it seems. Because in 1896 it said, thou shalt discriminate. But in 1954, thou shalt not discriminate. Okay, what's the Constitution really saying? You figure it out. I don't have the answer. But anyway, when I heard that, I was 13 years old. You know how 13-year-olds think? Not very deeply, I tell you that, because I was one. 13 years old, but when I heard that this court had changed the law in 1954, I was jumping up and down like a jackrabbit. What? You mean the law is on my side? You kidding me? Really? Say that again? Thou shalt not discriminate. Oh, cool. Okay. So then I said, all right, things are going to be okay for Terry Roberts. I can walk these streets with my head high. But then I realized, hey, but you're in Little Rock. People down here don't understand the change in law. I can't read anyway. Oh, what are you thinking? Okay, so watch out. So I had to be careful. But I was still hopeful. And then the school board in Little Rock sort of helped me lift my spirits even more. The school board, believe it or not, decided to obey the law. No precedent for that. None at all. They'd never done anything like that before. But now they're saying to black people in Little Rock, hey, we're on your team. We're going to make sure you go to these schools formerly set aside for white students only. And so they came knocking and knocked on the door of the schoolhouse. There were two, one middle school, one high school for black kids. That was part of that but equal part. All these schools for white kids, 2 schools for black kids. All right, so they came knocking and they said, look, we have a plan here. We're going to integrate one school, that's Central High. My ears perked up. Central? Really? That's my neighborhood school. I lived in the neighborhood where Central stood. I could walk there. Well, I walked past there every day anyway, going to my school, which was on the other side of town. You know, in order to get to the all-black high school, I had to ride a city bus, ride that bus downtown, get off, wait for another bus, and transfer. Get on that bus and then go to school at my own expense. School district didn't reimburse me for any of that. Wow. Thinking about it, there may not be a statute of limitations on my ability to get my money. I just might submit a claim. Thank you for letting me know. Anyway, they came knocking and they said, we need volunteers. We're going to try this experiment in desegregation, but we need black students to show up and help us. Really? Okay. About 150 of us volunteered. Well, the count was off by 1. Why? I voted. I didn't want to be missed, you see. So the count was off. That was all right. There was 150 bodies. Then we went home and told our parents, parents, I just volunteered. You're welcome. Oh, parental vetoes all over Little Rock. See, a lot of parents were quite afraid, and rightly so, that their kids might be killed, that their blood would flow in the gutters in the streets of Little Rock. All of the parents felt that fear, but some of the parents said, okay. My parents were among them. When I came home and told them I had volunteered, they said, okay, we will support your decision 100%. Wonderful, I said. You know why I said wonderful? Because I had an argument that I was going to make and I was going to win anyway, so it saved me that trouble. They were on my team from the start. And so it was. It came to pass, as they used to say in the old biblical text, and it came to pass that the Little Rock 9 was born. Yeah, sounds cool, right? We were actually 10. The night before school, we were the Little Rock 10. Doesn't have the cachet of 9, so it's okay. Anyway, what happened was this. Jane Hill was among our number. She was Little Rock number 10. But her dad worked for a white employer, and that employer, because he was upset with this whole affair, called him up. He said, Mr. Hill, if you insist on sending Jane to school tomorrow, do not come back to work. Wow, he panicked. He pulled her out. You know what happened? That guy fired him anyway. Just cut him off. Threw him under the bus. Because this employer thought, wow, this black worker has the thought that he could send his kid to go to school with my kid. What's he thinking? Who knows what else he'll think? I'll just fire him right now. Got rid of him. So there we were, 9. We show up, and the governor's been plotting all along. We don't know what the governor has in mind. He's fairly enigmatic. So he called out the National Guard to keep us out of school. Now the governor said publicly that he called out the Guard to maintain the peace, keep law and order. That's nonsense like that. His real interest was in keeping us out, which he did. I couldn't get into that school. I walked up there that day, I'll never forget. I walked up by myself. And I saw the Guard, and I thought to myself, well, the governor said they were going to keep the peace. Because I could see the mob, and I could hear the mob, and wow, that was scary. But I saw white kids just streaming through because the guards would step aside and let them in. So I said to myself, there is the designated point of entry. No one had told me that. I did not get the memo, but I could see for myself, so I got in line. I came marching up with these kids, and then all of a sudden when I got there, boom, they closed ranks. They held these batons out. They didn't say anything, but they looked mean. Oh, okay. But then I backed off, and then off to my left, I saw the guards parting again, and students streaming in, and I thought, oh, well, they have shifting points of entry. This is probably a security thing, to avoid trouble. So I went over there and got in line. All of a sudden, same thing. Whoop, close up, batons. Now at that point, lights went on. Took a little while, but I got it. You know, like you get that cartoon bubble. Aha! I know the truth. They're not letting me in. I was naive, but I wasn't stupid. So, at that point, I walked home. Then you know what happened? This adult white guy came charging after me, just running, full speed. And I turned around and, whoa, I'm ready. So to speak. Yeah, it would have been my karate stance if I'd known anything at all about karate, but I didn't have to use my skills because he said, oh, okay, it's okay, I'm your friend. So we had a nice talk. I found out in that instant that not every single white person in Little Rock wanted to kill me. Delightful news. I love that. You know, I like to live in a community where only a few people want to kill you. Well, at any rate, as a consequence, all 9 of us were turned away. We didn't know what to do. It took a long time, a lot of court appearances on behalf of the governor and his group, his staff, President of the United States got involved, lawyers. We were represented by Thurgood Marshall and Wiley Branton. A lot of stuff was going on. About 3 weeks later, the president decided to end the standoff by getting rid of the National Guard and sending in the 101st Airborne Division soldiers with guns. Oh man, these guys, they rolled into town. I'll never forget. They came in one evening. They were bivouacked over in North Little Rock where there was an army base. Then they rolled over the bridge. And the sun was setting and gleaming on them. You could see them like you saw on television. And they looked so powerful. And I thought to myself, wow. And I decided right then and there, my default option from now on was if something goes wrong and things get bad and I'm in danger, I'll just jump behind these soldiers and they will mow people down. Just take them out. Just get rid of them. I said that once to a group of students and the kid raised his hand in mid-talk and he says, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but a while ago you said you were nonviolent. I said, well, yeah, that's what I said. I'm a nonviolent person even now. He said, but you talk about these soldiers mowing people down. I said, yeah, I'm nonviolent, but they're not. They're violent. That's a big difference. Big difference. By the way, nonviolence is a very complicated thing anyway. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Well, what I found out about nonviolence is, at heart, I prefer nonviolence. My preference, my main preference is nonviolence. But under certain circumstances, I will employ violent methods. And I try not to do that. In fact, I live my life so I can avoid having to do that. But you know how people are. When you try to have conversations with some people, they don't speak your language, you have to try and find a language that works. A lot of people speak violence. I'm actually not fluent in violence, but I'm taking courses. Now, here's the other thing. Once we got into school with our soldiers, that was not the end of anything. That was the beginning. These students were so upset. They were so angry because we were there. You know why they were so angry? Well, they'd been sold a bill of goods. They'd been told so many lies. They'd been told that black people are dumb. They can't learn. They can't do anything. They're animals, actually. And they saw us come in there and they were stunned. And then especially when we started explaining who we were and talking about how much we knew, because we were all good students. Remember, I was not the only kid in the first grade at age 6 to take on executive control of my own learning. All the other 8 had done the same thing. We were all executives in charge of our learning, and we learned a lot, and we knew stuff. Oh yeah. And we didn't show off. No, we were cool. You know, we said to ourselves, don't want to make these white kids look bad, so we'll miss a few every now and again. Yeah, just to make it easy. But they picked it up anyway. You know, you can't fool kids. We know that you know the answer. You're just fooling around. We're gonna beat you up, and they did. They beat us up every day. We got beaten up. It was terrible, terrible. But we said we're gonna still be nonviolent until one day, February. We've been going through all this stuff: September, October, November, December, January. That's a long time to put up with that stuff, right? Then in February, Mary Jane Brown, one of our group, decided, okay, that's it. And the trigger came in the cafeteria. She'd gotten her lunch, she had a tray of food, she was seeking her seat, just walking down the aisle. This kid just pushes back in his chair. He didn't even get up. He just pushes back and sits there and looks at her with a mean face. Mary Jane didn't say anything. She just wondered aloud, well, she didn't even say that. She wondered to herself, I wonder what this is about. And then she looked at a tray of food and she looked at that kid and she began to change her wonderment. She said, I wonder if it would be appropriate to share my lunch with this kid. She thought about it. Eventually she decided in the affirmative and she upended that tray, covered that kid with her lunch. She covered him with chili and jello and salad and roll and the milk and the dessert. He got the whole 9 yards. Well, the next day somebody returned the favor and they covered Eugene with food. But at that point she said, okay, that's a sign. That's an omen from on high. That tells me I can divorce myself from the nonviolent pact I've made, and I am now on my own. She went rogue, like Sarah Palin. Well, she decided she was going to employ violence. So the next time a kid messed with her, she decked him. Whoa. She had kids laying all over school. So then, school authorities said, okay, Benji, for your own safety and well-being, we're kicking you out. Well, that was the manifest content, but the latent content was that they were really afraid that she was going to kill somebody, so they kicked her out. The upshot of that was, however, for the other 8 of us, they passed a little card around school, 1 down, 8 to go. You see, the thought was, since they pushed many to the edge, they could push the rest of us to the edge. So from February through May, we really had to double down on nonviolence. It wasn't easy. I want you to know that nonviolence can work, but it's not easy. You remember the story of Mahatma Gandhi? What he had to do with the British? They were nonviolent. A lot of those people got killed and hurt very badly. That's nonviolence at its best. Now, it's a little sort of off-putting when you think about it, because you say to yourself, why should I sacrifice myself for all these other crazy people? Think about it. But anyway, that's what we did. And we got through the year. Now, the governor, Orville Faubus, that was his name. It's a noble name, right? Orville Faubus. Sounded noble. Nothing noble about this guy. He was weird. He was fretting all year. You see, he had tried to keep us out. He called out the National Guard. That didn't work. All year long, rather than attend to the business of the state, he's probably sitting there in his mansion, chewing on his fingernails, just fretting, what to do, what to do. I got black kids in my school. I gotta get them out. Then one night, in the summer, because it was hot in Arkansas, he's probably wearing cut-off pajamas. I'm just imagining this, I don't know. But he's tossing and turning and sweating. He's perspiring heavily because, you know, they've got bug screens around, everything's going on. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of this internal struggle, this thought process, he doesn't know what to do, he gets it. Aha! I know what I'll do. I'll keep those black kids out. I will close down all high schools in Little Rock. Yes, that will work. And so he did. He closed down every single high school in Little Rock. He just signed an executive order. I, Orville Faubus, Governor of the state of Arkansas, now hereby decree no high schools will be open for the school year 58-59. Signed, Orville. Now, the governor did that. But you know what? He didn't think it through. What happens, A students, when you schools to keep the black kids out? What else happens? You keep the white kids out. You could be the governor. See, you should have been the governor. You would have known that. this governor, he didn't know that. Our governor wasn't very bright. Like you're a bright kid. Like, oh, the governor, oh no, he was dumb. He was dumb as dirt. But you know what? Actually, I shouldn't just single out Orville because that would make him an exception, right? Truth is that many like him because in this country, there is no requirement to hold public office that you have a measurable IQ. You go read it for yourself. Look at the criteria to hold public office. There's nothing that says you have to be smart. But you do have to be old enough, chronologically eligible. You have to have enough money to pay for the filing fee. But then if you can get out there on the stump and speak your piece, especially if you have some charisma, and you can convince enough like-minded idiots to vote for you, you can hold office. Oh yeah, you can be the governor, you can be the president for that matter. Oh yeah. Gotta take my cord with me. That is not vodka. That is really water. So, whoa. What a fun, what a fun. Now, with the schools closed, I've got a problem. See, I'm in a big dilemma. Schools are closed now. I don't know what to do. I'm the executive in charge of learning. I want to be in school like you. I can't wait to get to school. I mean, I know all of you. I can see it on your faces. You're eager to be in school. I was at school early, pounding on the door. Let me in, open up. And at night, they had to kick me out. Whoa, I love school. In fact, my middle school friends gave me a special name. They called me Nerd. Yeah, very nice of them. I hadn't even sought that appellation, but they just voluntarily dubbed me Nerd. I loved it so much, I said, I'm just not going to stop with Nerd. I'm going to be the chief nerd, so I put it out. I've been dubbed Nerd, but I'm going to upgrade myself. I'm going to be the chief nerd. You see, because even in middle school, I knew the truth of the matter. You know how that goes? Nerd today, boss tomorrow. Oh yeah. So if you want to be a worker bee, you can put aside that term nerd. But if you truly want to make it, you better embrace that term and roll with it. At any rate, so I had a decision to make. My relatives who lived in Los Angeles had always told me, look, Terry, if it gets too hot there in Little Rock, we've got a place for you in LA. So I said, okay, here I come. Oops, that little noise, that's my timer saying my time is up. 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. Now we're going to talk together. But it's good, I'm almost at the end anyway. So I took them up on it. I went out to LA and enrolled in Los Angeles High School and graduated in 1959. During that year, I convinced my family of origin, who were still in Little Rock, to move to LA. All of us voluntarily gave up our Little Rock visa. We can't even go to Little Rock anymore. We're not credentialed. That's all right. I mean, once you've been to Little Rock and then you leave and you've been gone for about 2 weeks, there's no compulsion to go running back anyway. So, what we're going to do now is talk together. Our A students here, elected representatives in this democracy of the 8th graders, they have questions. They're going to march over there to the mic. Let's go, kids. All of you in a row. And is that what we're going to do? Okay, I don't know. I'm just messing up. So, who's first? You first? She says you're first. Attention. Oh, what's it called? Argenziana. Okay. Okay, here we go. Argenziana's up. Flag is up. Okay.
When you were a student at Central High School, you and the other students who were trying to integrate the school had a very difficult situation to get through. What advice can you give students about handling a lot of pressure and making very hard decisions?
Wow, that's a tough question. What advice can I give to someone who's facing, you know, the truth of the matter is, life is tough. There's a book I read a few years ago. It's called The Road Less Traveled by F. Scott Peck. I don't know if any of you read that book yet. You might pick it up. It was published a little before you were born, but it's still on the shelves. Chapter 1, sentence 1, a 3-word sentence. Life is difficult, period. That's what he says. Now, a lot of people just throw the book on the wall at that point. Oh, I don't need you, Scott Peck, to tell me life is difficult. I already know that. However, if they would continue to read, they would get Scott's interpretation of how to deal with it. But we don't have Scott Peck here today. We just have Terry Roberts, so you're going to get mine. My advice is to, 1, recognize that you are not in a world of ease and comfort. This is a tough world we live in. A lot of people don't like that reality, and so they push against it, and they create what I call a fictional world. They use words, I call it linguistic fiction. They create a world that doesn't have any foundation at all. Don't do that. Accept the reality. It doesn't mean you condone it or support it, but you have to know that it's there. Then, you can develop the skills to navigate that terrain. Now, I feel fortunate because I learned at a very early age the importance of learning to navigate the terrain. Along with being the executive in charge of learning, I learned how to navigate the world. I was helped by my mom, my dad, other people. One of the great privileges that I had, a man in my neighborhood by the name of Mr. Campbell was a janitor at the local YWCA. He hired me as his assistant janitor, and I was 8 years old. That was my first job. 8 years old. And I had to learn everything because I didn't know anything about work. It's like school, education. Now is work. What is work? Mr. Campbell was very patient. He said, Terry, we are going to learn to work. Mr. Campbell taught me that work was an area where you can learn about yourself. You can learn about your own tendencies, your own ability to be patient, ability to persevere. And he said this, he said, we're going to clean the Y the first time. We're going to do such a thorough job the first time, but the second time around will be easy. Wow, I love Mr. Campbell, because as an 8-year-old worker, I needed that instruction. But he taught me so much stuff. That was my first lesson in how to navigate the terrain, the difficulties of life. A lot of people don't like to work. I tried to hire a young kid when I was in LA. It was in my first home. I needed somebody to do yard work. So I hired this young kid from the neighborhood. I said, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, you show up. He shows up, and he's dressed like he's ready to go out dancing. He's all sharp, you know, crease in his pants, everything's new and clean. And I looked at him and I said, hey, you know, I think you'd be more comfortable doing yard work if you had on jeans. He says, yo, man, I don't do jeans. Well, I fired him. But more to the point, I think, you know, facing this harsh world we live in, you've got to know who you are. You've got to have such high-level self-awareness that you understand, one, what other people may think about you is none of your business. That is so important. I'll say it again. What other people think about you is not your business. It's their business. Let me illustrate something for you. Let's say you're walking down the hallway at Argentian, and you're just cooling along, and somebody says in the back of you, they yell out, hey, stupid! Now, what have I done? I just turned around. Why did I turn around? I heard somebody yell stupid. Maybe I thought it was me. But was it? But if I have high-level self-awareness, and I know I'm not stupid, then that's not for me. So if I hear it yelled out, do I turn around? No, I keep walking. That's not my message. That's for stupid. Or whatever it is. See, self-awareness tells you other people out there will assume you're stupid, you're crazy, you're lazy, you're no good, whatever. All that stuff has nothing to do with you. You don't even have to get involved with that. I get called sometimes into schools to deal with kids who fight. Now, I know you guys know nothing about that because you're enlightened, you don't fight each other. But there are some other kids in other parts of the country that go to schools and they do fight. You guys are in a wonderful position because you already know that fighting is primitive and animalistic and has not any room at all in the world of humans. But I get called in and I find out that some people are fighting. You know what some kids were fighting about at a school in LA? I asked a kid, what triggered you? He said, that kid was looking at me funny. Really? I said, how do you know he was looking at you funny? He said, he just was. He mean mugged me. Mean mugged. I had to learn all this terminology. I tried to get him to understand that what other people may do with their face has nothing to do with you. It's their face. They can twist it however they want to. But if you get involved, that's by choice. If you get involved, that's your choice. You don't have to be involved. Thank you. Great question. Number 2. Uno, dos. And this young lady is from Healy. Oh, here we go again. Argentian. Okay.
Can you describe one of the most frightening moments of your school year in Little Rock Central High?
Can I describe one of my most frightening moments? You bet I can. Oh, pick a number. Pick a number. So many frightening moments. In fact, every day was one big fright. My fear level was off the chart. I'd never felt fear like that in my life. I didn't even know human beings could be that afraid. You know, once I started experiencing that level of fear, I thought to myself, I'm going to die, because that fear was going to kill me. Turns out, I was wrong. I found out, I learned at Central High School that fear does not have to interfere with goal-directed behavior. So whatever frightens you when you come to school, don't worry about it. Put that fear in your pocket and keep on moving. Because it doesn't have to interfere. I mean, it can cause you trouble. You know, it cause your knees to buckle, your voice to quiver, oh, I'm afraid. But hey, accept that fear, own it, it's yours. As long as it's your fear, you can put it in your pocket. You can tell it where to sit. Sit over here, fear. I'm not ready for you. You know, honestly, that's what I learned. It doesn't come automatically, you have to learn it. But that's the thing to do. Yes. Are we up to healing? All right. Healing school now.
Why did you choose to get degrees in sociology, social welfare, and psychology?
I guess the main reason is when you're an executive in charge of your education, you get as much education as you can. You just go for it. But there is something different about me. My initial thought as an undergraduate student was that sociology might give me the tools to complete my mission, which was to go into communities, convince people to be more civic-minded, demand proper services from local governments, organize themselves, make sure that all kids got education, etc., etc. But I found out that the sociologists weren't that interested in that. They were primarily researchers, investigators, so we would make forays into the community, dig out the data, go back to school and process it, and write books and papers and have conferences, at which point we didn't need the people anymore, we had our data. I didn't like that. So I thought social work might be the place where I could be more active in the community, but I got to school and found out that the overwhelming majority of my fellow students had a keen interest in psychotherapy. In fact, the school I chose to attend had as one of its requirements that each student be in psychotherapy for at least one term. I went through that process. I was intrigued by it, but decided if I'm going to be a good psychotherapist, I need a degree in psychology. So that was step 3. I did that, got the degree in psychology, opened the practice, practiced for 30 years. I closed my practice a few years ago, but it was wonderful. Now I've expanded what I do. I no longer do that office practice. I do consulting, which I call my macro practice. Larger scale interventions. I work with large groups of people. My philosophy is, as a psychologist, is wherever there are people, there are potential jobs for me. By the way, those of you who are interested in psychology, think about it, because you have job security built in. There will be crazy people forever.
I read that you taught college. How did your experiences at Central High School impact the way you taught?
The way I taught? Oh, I love that question. How did my experiences at Central impact the way I teach? You know, that's a great question, and I'll put it in a more global sense. Whatever happens to you in life, whatever experience you have informs you about who you are. It adds to or subtracts as this processing goes on. It's like you and your skin cells. Every year, you know, you develop a whole new set of skin cells. Some of you didn't know this. But check out some microscopic equipment and check your sheets now and then. You'll see all those flakes. That's you. in the process of metamorphosing into the new you. Anyway, I think whatever I learned at Central, I incorporated into Terry Roberts. I'll tell you one experience I had there that might help. I had this English teacher who hated me with vile passion. She confronted me one day. She said, "Terry Roberts, why do you want to come to our school? Why don't you go back to your own school?" I was shocked. It's an English teacher speaking these words. But I also had an immediate thought that there was something wrong with her, because the implication in her words was that she had ownership in these public institutions, i.e. her school, and that I too had ownership, i.e. my school. So I thought, this woman is mentally ill. It would be difficult to have a real conversation with her, so rather than talk, I'll just smile and walk outside. Well, I've since come to appreciate smiling and walking off as my response to idiocy wherever I find it. And then sometimes that works. But what that means in terms of your question is, I realized at that point that I had to make constant decisions about how and why I said or did anything. So that's what I do in the classroom. And sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. I get into trouble sometimes. Sometimes I have less filter than other times. I remember this one student, graduate program, right? So you have high expectations. She turned in this paper. It was so bad. When she came in for a consultation, I said, "What, you were on drugs when you wrote this? What was going on?" That was not the right thing to say. Okay, yes. Who's next? Kennedy School. Jack Kennedy. I know that name. Where do I know that name? Okay.
What was your favorite memory from Central High School?
What was my favorite memory?
Favorite memory, yes.
Memories. Oh, okay. I don't know, but I'll work on it. What was my favorite memory? Wow. You know what? I just got one. I got one. It was the librarian. The librarian at Central. She was an interesting lady. I don't know if she's typical of librarians, but she maintained control of that domain. It was a very small library. But I realized that if I could get into the library, I would be fully protected from the violence. Because a librarian wouldn't tolerate any of that in the library. But you couldn't get in there unless you filled out a slip, and you had to write your reason for being in the library. Now, initially, I was able to get through because I had the standard responses. You know, I need work on a term paper, and da-da-da. But then I ran out of those, and then one day, I wrote on the slip, "I want to bask in the quiet reverie of this surround." She said, "No!" I thought to myself, wow, she's tough. I had to go back out in the hall and run from the guys who wanted to beat me up. So that's one of my favorite memories, believe it or not. Yes. What was that? Is that speaking through the drums? Okay. All right.
What was the most interesting thing you learned about human nature when you were at Central High?
The most interesting thing about human nature at Central High. You know, I think one of the most interesting things was some of these kids who were beating me up, I don't think they had a clue what they were doing. They were so moved by the craziness that's absorbed along the way. I was tempted one day to say to this kid, it was a Tuesday, I'll never forget, he called me nigger, right? But then I said to myself, I should tell him, that's the same thing you call me Monday. Where's your creativity? See? I don't know. Okay. This guy's a superstar, right?
This is for the first day of Central High School.
Okay.
My question is, what was going through your mind when you saw all the people screaming at you in like the crowds when you like walking through?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, I thought at first, there's been a mistake. There's been a mistake. These guys didn't get the memo that they should be at home or at work, tending the garden, doing stuff that humans actually do. But here they are on a mission to kill us. That didn't make any sense. So I'm thinking, how do I survive this day one? I actually improvised. There were a number of photographers and reporters on the scene, so I had them stand in two circles, an inner circle and an outer circle. I got in the middle, and I began to conduct a press conference. As long as I was there answering questions, I was safe from the mob. I answered question after question. Any question they put to me, I had an answer. If I didn't have the answer, I made up the answer. I didn't want to leave. It was so cool. Thank you. I love that question. Okay. I can see those are her reps over there.
Can you tell us about a time when white students in the school were nice to you?
Yes, I can. A few white students were actually nice to us, but they were living under an injunction all over school. The injunction was, if you befriend the black students, we will kill you too. It took a lot of courage for white students to go against that, but some did. Some absolutely did. The one who stands out is a young woman, Robin Woods. Some of you know her story. You guys learn about Robin? Okay, check it out. Robin Woods. Google her name. Google her name. By the way, if you want to talk to her, I have her number. I'll give you the number. Robin was in my algebra class. I often had no books, no notebooks, no pens, no pencils, because these crazy kids would take my stuff in the hallway and just rip it up. Rip up my books, my notebooks, break my pencils, and look at me as if to say, what are you going to do about it? Me? Nothing. I'm gone. So I go to class and I have nothing. One day, Robin pulled her desk over and we sat and used her book. That was an act of defiance on her part. She got beaten up as a consequence. But she was steadfast. She didn't give it up either. Okay, Mr. Columbia. John, what's your hill? No, of course, we have Mr. Benny Hill.
Do you believe that the actions made by the federal government were enough to halt the blind hate?
Halt the what?
Halt the blind hate speaking.
The blind hate? Yes, the blind. Oh, no. No, I don't think the government's intervention had anything to do with stopping the blind hate. The blind hate is still blind and still hateful. Whoa. Okay. That's right, we get the message. She's just back there jerking a chain. So, you know, that's a very interesting question, though. In fact, I'm in the midst of reading a book right now. It's called Moral Man, Immoral Society, written by Reinhold Niebuhr. Years ago, this book was first published, I think, in 1932. But fantastic mind. And he speaks to some of that stuff about the role of government and society and so forth. But nothing has happened to change the blind hate, unfortunately. Okay, last but certainly not least. Coming from the right corner wearing a gray top, blue pants. Ready to go. Okay.
How were you able to resist seeking revenge against the white students who harassed you?
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I gotta get close. All right. Slow it down.
How were you able to resist seeking revenge against the white students who harassed you?
Oh, great question. How was I able to resist seeking revenge against the white students? One, you see, as an executive in charge of my learning, also that could mean in charge of my life, I don't allow anybody to dictate what I choose. That's one thing. Also, if you harbor revenge, hatred, bitterness, negative thoughts about other people, that eats away at your life energy, and you don't have that to spare, at least I don't. I have no life energy to devote to those causes. In fact, I have empathy and compassion for people rather than revenge on my mind. For good reason. I got bushels and bushels of hate letters as an example during that year. People wrote to me from all over the world with nasty stuff. I collected those letters, and they will one day become archived in some, university or institutional archive. But before I send them, I want to take some time and correct the grammar. I want to help these folk out. You see, because people who do that sort of stuff are in deep trouble. They need our help. They really need our help. And who's going to do it if not me, right? And I know how to write correctly. I know this stuff. Bigots of the world, this is not for you, but this is just universal. I understand they're filming this. Somebody out there might hear, somebody might benefit. If you're gonna be a bigot, be smart. Okay, is that it?
Just the booth is Somerville.
Have you ever met one of your tormentors from Central High later in life, and if so, how was the encounter?
Very good, yes, I've met several actually, and differential encounters. One I met on the Oprah Winfrey show, I guess it was in the 90s something. But anyway, there were a group of them on the Oprah Winfrey show who showed up to say they were sorry. That's what they said. I didn't believe them. Because prior to Oprah, I had not heard from them. Since Oprah, no word. I think they were on just because it was television and they might get a car since they were on Oprah. They didn't. But I didn't believe them at all. But then I bumped into another guy in the Little Rock airport, by chance. I didn't recognize him. He recognized me. He said, "Hey, you're Terry Roberts." I said, "Yes." He said, "I was in your PE class at Central." Whoa, you were. I was wary even then, this is years later. He said, no, I was not one of the ones beating you up in PE. I was one of the ones watching you get beaten up. So, we had a good talk. I understood. If I were in his shoes, I may have felt the very same thing. He was afraid he would get beaten up too. You think about it. You may have had that experience already. You could see stuff going down and you know it's not right, but you know if you stepped in, you'd get punched. So you thought, whoa, better think it through again. Okay.
Ms. Gana Sengal, Ms. Somerville.
Like a caged lion, I go over. Okay.
Was there a time you just wanted to give up? If so, what kept you going?
Yes. I wanted to give up every second of every day. I truly did not want to stay there 1 second longer on any given day. What kept me going was the fact that I had to stay there to model law-abiding behavior. You see, the law is now on my side. I've got to show the world how to obey the law. So I show up, even though it includes me getting beaten to a pulp. This is law-abiding behavior, folks. Also, I had to respect the heritage that I had inherited. Thousands of people had died in the same cause. People who lived before me laid down their lives so that I could have the opportunity to lay down my life. I could not desecrate their memory. Very important question. Okay, is that the whole banana? The full 9 yards? The full Monty? Okay. Well, we have time. I mean, after all, this is school, and school continues. By the way, school does not end. What time does school end here? 2:35? Okay, now that's an artificial stopping point because school continues after 2:35. School is forever. School is forever because learning is forever. I want to assign you 1 book per week. Okay, now give me static. It's going to be 2. All right. 1 book a week. Remember, you've got so much to learn. Get started now. Here's a hint. If you develop the habit of learning, it's much easier. I developed the habit of learning as a very young child. I can't stop reading them. It's just like people who smoke cigarettes. People who smoke cigarettes never, ever have to think about smoking a cigarette. It's on automatic. They wake up in the morning, the hand sneaks out, the eyes are still closed. They search, they get the lighter and the cigarette, and they come together and now I can wake up. See, that's a cigarette smoker. But why use your energy for something so crazy as that? Put your energy into learning how to read, put that on automatic, and wow, the whole world begins to open up. That's what happened to me. I started reading, and new worlds exploded in front of me. Whoa, really? In fact, that's how I learned about what had happened in this country. It's all written down. It's not hidden. That was a funny thing. Nobody had taken any steps to mask the information. It's all there. It's written down. They probably knew that some people wouldn't read it. I came along. Surprise, I'm reading this stuff. And I said to myself, now that I know it, I know how to navigate even better. So, what's our time frame? We have 5 more minutes. That's a world of time. I love that. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes any day and I'm ready. So, who out there has a question who hasn't been able to ask it? Just stand in place. Here you go. Just stand and speak loudly. Did you say like Okay, stand up, go for it. Okay. He's bombarded me with likes, but I survived. I survived. I'm going to get a t-shirt. I survived the life assault. Okay. My best memory with a staff person. You know, I really don't have one. That's a great question, though, because things were so chaotic. We had our soldiers with us. That was my closest companion during the day, up and down the hall. Unfortunately, they could not enter the classrooms or the cafeteria or the bathrooms or the gym or the auditorium or the library or the chapel. I had a chapel at that school, but the soldiers weren't welcome there either. Those were all places where we could get beaten up, even in the chapel. So, I don't have that memory, but I like that question. I may go back to Little Rock and see who I can drag up as a staff person. Quiz them. If they're still around. Okay, yes, stand right up. Ah, good question. How does it feel to be a huge part of history? You know, I'd like to take this opportunity to expand the question, and I would throw it back to all of you. How does it feel to be a part of history? You see, because all of us are making history every second of every day. You can't help it. That's just the way life works. The historical record is not complete on any given day until you make your final entry. Question is, at the end of your time, and that will come, by the way, life is limited. There is an end point. You ever visit a cemetery? You see those tombstones? There's a start date and an end date. Born 1837, died 1952. But between those two dates, what do you have? A dash. That is the important piece. The dash. What will your dash report to those who come after you? What history will you add to the ongoing historical record? I don't know. You don't know. But think about it, because you have the opportunity now to make the kind of choices that will shape the dash. The dash will glow and sparkle, or it will be dull. Yes. Stand right up. Just speak and speak from the diaphragm. Yes, absolutely. His question was, did my experience at Central shape me into the person I am now? Yes. I don't know exactly how, but I do know this. Whatever happens in your life shapes you in some way. Whatever your experience, it's sort of like a potter with clay. As a potter works with the clay on a daily basis, he does things to it, and eventually the shape evolves into whatever it is. Same thing with us in life. Everything we go through helps to shape us. There was a hand over here, yes. No, we were not. Unfortunately, all 9 of us had to sign an affidavit to that effect. We were not allowed to participate in any extracurricular activities. Part of that was occasioned by the fact that there was this great fear that somehow we, the 9, would form bonds with these students, and that would not be tolerated, yes. Now stand right up. Diaphragm. If I could change any one thing, what would it be? I know exactly the answer to that one. I would demand that there be opportunity to have a roundtable discussion between the 9 of us and the kids who are beating us up. I would ask them to put their fists aside, lock them up in safe places, and then we would sit there and talk. We would move from the viscera up to the cerebrum and have a talk about what motivated you to hit me in the mouth. May I have an explanation, please? Can you just imagine that conversation? Yes. Stand up. That's all right. You can make a comment. Somebody miss out? Lola. Hey, Lola. Did I miss you? Come on, Lola. All right. Her question was this: what was my relationship with the soldiers? Did they actually talk to us, or did they just watch over us? They did both. They talked to us and they watched over us. They're like angels. They weren't much older than we were, by the way. We were a group 14 through 16. They were probably 18 through 21. Very young people. By the way, I'm going to digress just a moment. Young men, in this country, we still have that action where as an 18-year-old, you have to register for the draft. You have to register with the U.S. government so that you are available to go fight. Now, the draft has not been used in a while, but it could be instituted at any time. Be careful when you sign up. Make certain you write on the paper, I will not go as a private. I want to start off as a general. Why? Because the generals sit back in safety and make the decisions. while the privates go out and do the grunt work. If I were you. Okay. Well, yes. Very good question. I wish I thought of that. Did I ever try and convince my mom to let me stay home so I wouldn't have to go to Central? No. What happened was I would wake up on a given morning and one half of my brain would start a conversation. Hey, you've done your bit. It's tough out there. You're going to get beaten up again. You might as well just stay home. But about that time, the other side of the brain would wake up and say, whoa, wait a minute, what'd you say? And then that side of the brain would kick in and just overpower the other side. And before you knew it, I was caught in this dilemma. The brain was fighting and the other side was winning and I had to go. And it zoomed me off. Okay, what bug did you put in her ear? Una más, una pregunta más. So, here's the deal. Whoever is chosen to give the last question, by dint of the fact that it is indeed the last question, it must necessarily be deeply profound. Okay, so if that's your question, raise your hand. Yes, sir. You're it. Now, what we have here, we're in anticipation of a deeply profound question.
Do you ever wish there was more or less members of your group?
Wow, great profound question, I tell you. Yes, and you know what? The answer is, it would have been nice to be the Little Rock 900. With a small army. You know, life is always much better if you have a posse with you, right? You can roll. If you're out there on your own, and by the way, during that year, you might consider us not necessarily Little Rock 9, but a Little Rock 1 9 times, because we were not in class together. In fact, one of our group was a senior, 5 of us were juniors, 3 were sophomores. Homeroom assignments dictated your class assignments, and they assigned homerooms alphabetically. None of our names were similar, so we were scattered all over. We used to see each other on occasion in the hall running, zoom, zoom, because running was the order of the day. By the way, I'll go in with this. Young men, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you are called upon to fight, you have options. You could stand and fight, or you could run. I recommend running. But in any case, I want you to go forth and read those books, do well, take care, see you later.